In this video, we're going to introduce a in-class exercise. So basically, we're going to debug this code you can put those in a script file and use the pie chart to debug this. However, here I will put it in notebooks to debug it. So in this one, we are going to read those are definition of the functions. I'm gonna skip that right now. I will just first start read the very last one. I'll say, hey, this basically is calling the get score from the scores.txt file, and then read them as a tuple, and then we're gonna read this as a score. Then call the score statistics function to get some statistics. So apparently I see an error already. So if this is a tuple, then this has to be like you have to put something like 0, right? But if you want to make it simpler, you can simply get rid of this parenthesis, right? So that's the first error. It also depends on what's the return value of the get score. So the get score basically is not returning a tuple. So we will get rid of the parenthesis to keep consistent. So that's the error one. So I find error one, right? And I'll remove that, and then I'll give you the same file you're going to use. Error two. So let's go ahead inside this one. We're going to see, okay, error two, we have a score file, which is a file name. So it's a string. Then we open a file as a read mode. So this is the file object, and if the file open has error, then we print out the error. So here is what will happen is here actually is another syntax error. It's supposed to be this way, right? We're going to filter that, and then we are going to read this one. So I read for a line in a file. However, remember, this is just a string. You're supposed to read a file object. So this is another error. So we're going to change to file object. So we're going to read one line. So that will be A9. Stripped it, get rid of extra spaces, and then for split, this split only split the values without the tuple. So it's not a tuple, it's just the name and the score. So you append this to a name list. However, the name list is not declared yet. So I'm going to declare it right here. I'm going to say name list is empty, right? It's empty lists. And then I will have the score list is empty list as well. So then we can append, we can add elements to it, right? So here it's converted to integer, which is good. And this will close the file. Again, this is supposed to be file, not the string file name. So then we return this. I think now it's all good. So then we are going to read the score. So this is the list. So the good is 0 and the good score is 80. And so for the A score in the range of the score list, if the score is greater than or equals to 80, then good score, a good add +1. So we're going to get to the names of the score, how many students, how many good students, what's the total scores, total students with the score less than 80. That will be this one. I think now it should be running. So let's check it. Oh, it says we have a error. Okay, that's because this is the Python number 2. So we're gonna do Python 3. So we're gonna put the arrows in here. That's another debugging. That's Python 2, version number 2. That's so we have to put this inside a parenthesis. Let's run it again. Apparently internal Python error with inspect model below is the traceback from this internal arrow. So let's check what is it. Object type is non-type, has no length. So let's see which one. Open file score arrow, open file score dot text. During handling this one, so look like we cannot open it. Score, no such a file in the directory, no such a file in the directory. So we have to double check if our scores is in the file. You see here we pass the score as a score file, and here we actually using this one. So we are going to get rid of this one because the score file is already passed. So that's another arrow. Okay. No such files of a score.txt. So we're supposed to have scores. Okay, let's see, what is the arrow? No such files in the directory as scores.txt. So let's check if in our folder we have scores. We do have scores, and let's double check scores. We do have some score, and let's go back the folder, and apparently we are supposed to read the file and start read this, but the score file is scores.txt. It should be there. Let me double check which one we're using. Oh, it's in the samples. That's why it's giving us the problems. So what I would do is I will actually put this piece of code in the labs. We're in the wrong folder, so I am going to in the lab 5.1 and or I can copy the file to that folder. That will work too. So that was the wrong one, which is good. And what I need to do is just simply add those comments. So I will just so for me, I will just simply go back to that folder in the sample folder, and I am going to load 5.1 files, and here I need to copy the scores to the sample folder. Okay, now it should be all right. It's now we solved the problem of the score. So let's see if this is gonna run correctly. So look like we got total students of 9, and we have the student score is greater than or equals to 80. That's supposed to be, we're supposed to have multiple of them, and then scores less than 80. So something wrong with here. If a score is greater than 80, you see here we are getting the range. So that's just the value of a score. So it's actually something wrong here as well. So it has to be something like this. Okay, so let's try that again. That should give us the correct answer. Okay, so there are multiple arrows. So this is actually the solution for this in-class exercise. Now it's working correctly.